Great stuff, guys. So now we're going to change the energy a little bit because we're going to have a panel discussion. And I think it's very important to have all these textures through the day so we can understand so many different aspects to DORA, from crisis communication to the technical side to procurement to legal to everything else like that. We have to understand that this is holistic throughout an organization, so there's many, many different parts of that challenge. So I'm going to ask some of my colleagues from the industry to join me. If we could have Michael Conway, we could have Martin Duffy, we could have Joe Boyle from Salt Communications. And if you want to join me, guys, we'll have a little bit of a conversation and we will explore the industry's view of this. Now, guys, purposely, we do not pre-prepare any questions, right? Because we want this to be organic, we want this to be interactive as well. So if you do happen to have a question for the industry, we have about 30 minutes or so. Now, what's important for me to tell you is where lunch is, right? So it's in the restaurant. It's also important to tell me where dessert is. It's in the DORA Expo Zone, so we can get you back, okay? So when we're finished this panel discussion, we can make our way to have our lunch, and then we can work our way back to get our desserts and so on back in the DORA Expo Zone, and we can get to know each other a little bit better and do some more networking and so on. So guys, I'm going to just ask the panel to give their name, rank, and serial number, a brief introduction to themselves. We'll keep this, as you can tell at this stage, we're trying to keep this as low-key as possible and not stand on ceremony so that we can get to the heart of the subject and get into it. And I wanted to construct a panel here that represents different aspects of the cybersecurity, ICT, if you like, industry, different areas of it, to find out what is in their mind about DORA. Is it just another GDPR? What is this? Does it make any difference? All of those kind of things. And we're going to get into that, and we will welcome questions as well from the floor. So maybe we'll start off with yourself, Joe, if you want to introduce and we'll work our way across.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Joe Boyle. I'm CEO and founder of Salt Communications, and we provide secure comms into banks and other organizations.
I'm Michael Conway of Renaissance. I've been in this industry even longer than Paul, I think, at this stage. I'm really upset there isn't an avatar to tell me about my life, but our business is distributing cybersecurity and compliance technologies and solutions into Ireland, and that has been an evolving business for over 30 years. So we see the evolution of technologies and the things to help people become compliant and cyber secure as best as possible.
Hi, Martin Duffy from Hibernia Venture Labs, founder and chief strategy officer, 25 plus years as a professional geek. Was IBM's lead ethical hacker at 20. I've put on a few road miles since then, and pounds. So I helped set up the Garda CCIU, UN's first hacker emergency response team, and then done lots of other cool stuff in between.
Brilliant. Well, look, guys, I'm going to start off with just a quick question on if there's one thing you were to say to a potential DORA client of how you can help them, how can you help them? I'll start with Martin.
Yeah, so I suppose how you can help them is understanding. And I think that's a reoccurring theme that we've seen here today. As Paul has broken down over the morning, DORA isn't the only show in town either. So understanding the commonalities among all the regulations. I had a chat with someone in the breakout this morning about, Claude, if you're there, we had a great chat about GDPR and what's common between that and DORA and NIST. And I said, well, actually, if you go and have a demo and ask Paul very nicely, they'll show you their great tools. See, I've done the plug already.
Good man.
But if you look at the commonalities, it can reduce your burden. So in terms of, so awareness is key. And awareness that this can actually be a primary USP for when you're selling. And I'll tell you where the thinking on that is, right? So Europe is heavily regulated. Absolutely, everyone understands that. The EU's understanding and approach to regulation has evolved over the years. They're heading to a more somewhat pragmatic approach, and you can see that in the AI Act with the varying levels. You can see it within Digital Markets Act. You can even see it within DORA. They're trying to look at that, and Paul covered pragmatism this morning. Even CBI is focusing on it. So what I would say is on the USP side, take on board vendor due diligence. You're selling into large enterprises or medium-sized customers, or you are indeed. Everyone's selling, and I believe Paul said it and Dan said it just there. At the end of the day, security is great, but we're all here to achieve a commercial outcome. So if you can demonstrate compliance and you're small and you get through that vendor due diligence place, the benefit is very clear. There's also a second benefit, which is if you think security is expensive, wait until you have a security incident. Then you'll see how expensive it is. So it's that awareness, it's the tooling, it's the pragmatic approach, all of its risk mitigation. To be honest, a shit show is a shit show for a startup as it is for an enterprise. It's just the scale of your response should be the same. In terms of if you're small, your response small and quick. If you're big, it's going to be big and broad.
Absolutely. And Michael, you're the newcomer to the industry, right? And you more or less represent a portfolio of different kind of solution providers. So you've seen it all over the years. So what's different about DORA? Or is there something different about DORA that you're seeing?
It's very interesting. I mean, from our point of view, as you say, I'm only around a short while, but it's about evolution, and we've seen a lot of the sessions that I've listened to and heard today, and various conversations and talks about DORA over time. The one thing that strikes me about DORA is it's easy to solve. All you need is infinite amounts of money, infinite amounts of time, infinite amounts of resources. Otherwise, it's a doddle. So they're the challenges that everybody seems to have, and what we're seeing now are technologies that are helping people resolve those, I suppose, the resource issue, the money issue, the people issue, the skills issue. And we heard earlier about the number of people that the industry needs and the open positions that are out there. So we've seen a lot of technologies that are coming along to help people actually become more compliant, more secure, and allowing people to do more with the resources that they have and with the capabilities that they have. So that's, I suppose, the biggest single change that we've seen. And that's actually been quite dramatic over the last, I would say, 5 years. Definitely, you know, you have your EDRs and your MDRs and your XDRs and all those sort of things. So you have, and you've managed security resources. Because doing stuff internally is really, really, really virtually impossible for anybody unless they have very, very large resources. They need partners. So this is an ecosystem. To the points made in terms of, you know, the vendor area out there or whatever, and the vendors that we work with, it's an ecosystem. These are the people who can assist you in helping your areas. But it's all working together to become more compliant. I think it's ultimately, compliance is the right thing to do. I think everybody would agree with that, but they need help.
Okay, and Joe, this morning I spoke about confidentiality, integrity, availability, authenticity. You guys tackle that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we didn't start off working with financial institutes. We started off working at the high end of government and security, and used to dealing with, you know, hugely paranoid individuals who need to own and trust the systems that they're using. And you know, we provide a secure communication system to allow important people to talk about important stuff that maybe they don't want to use other channels for. So I'm not sure that DORA, well, maybe it is the driver, but you know, it used to be just the largest financial institutes and their head of risk would ask us to come in and talk about, well, what do we do when the lights go out? What do we do when everything else you know, is not available? And when they were bringing in third parties and they were going through their wargaming, the first question that was posed to them is, well, what do you do when everything stops working? How do you communicate? Maybe a scattered team across the globe. So we were brought in as this safe haven island that sat outside the internal infrastructure that allowed the important people to communicate. It's like what Paul was talking about, the communication thing, right? They were able to pick up their phone, and you know, it's a mobile solution that we have, so they're able to use their smartphone wherever they are in the world over any network and have that trusted conversation. And that's really our driver. And you know, how we do it, well, we normally go into people who are you know, sufficiently tooled to ask all of the complicated questions. and it's transparency. So we just talk about, are we implemented? But the warm and fuzzy for our customers is that after it's been deployed, when they've got it and deployed it internally, they close the door behind us. So we are not a weak point in the chain for them. They have their own isolated, secure communication system that they can fall back on again when they suspect maybe that they've been infiltrated. Because often, if it's a nation state, what they want is the gathering of the information on an ongoing basis to be able to plug into the live conversations of the really important people in the organization. And if you suspect that there's something there, you maybe can't use your internal tools, your Teams or your email or your instant messaging internally, and you want to be able to step out and have those conversations. So that's what we do, and that's our solution.
Okay, so it's essentially covert channels in the middle of an incident and so on like that, so that you're not getting the bad guys listening into all the decisions that are being made as well, which is a hugely big part now of DORA and incident response.
Yeah, I think one of the lawyers who we work with in London, they do kind of ransomware negotiation, and they're going into an organisation. Paul says, after they should have done all of this stuff and they weren't well prepared, and then they bring the guy in and he's trying to unpick it all and figure it out. And they said they issued us with this demand. They said they're going to release all of this information, or they're going to lock down our systems. And we have people scattered all over the place, and we were trying to communicate. And then they were coming back to us saying, we can hear what you're saying, and we're not going to do that. So pay us the money right now. And he says, it's called organized crime because they're well organized. And if you pay them and you stick with their terms, they'll actually offer you technical support to make sure that you get back up and running. and for them, they're looking after their own credibility as well. So if you pay them and then they go and do something bad with the information as well, that's a game changer for them, because they can't exploit anybody else because they're going to, you won't trust them and you won't pay
bad
them.
reputation.
So
Who knew you couldn't trust a bad guy?
Yeah.
So, Martin, you guys in Hibernia Venture Labs are at the cutting edge of innovation and everything else like that. So it's too easy for people when it comes to compliance to go, we just stop where we are and measure and work out the controls in place. How do you embrace something like DORA but still innovate, say, for example, around AI or blockchain, cryptocurrencies, those kind of areas?
So it goes back to pragmatism. Within the group, we have a very strong technology team, but we also have a very tightly bound commercial team. So again, creating that shared awareness. We heard everyone talking about awareness, and that probably goes back to Paul Allen's point about communication. So once you create that common understanding of how you approach it, so in terms of AI, which is just a tool. Listen, we're dealing with a shovel. It's a very sophisticated shovel, and it can do lots of things, but that's what it is. It's not this end all, as I'm quite often known for saying, AI doesn't exist. We can't even make a machine as smart as a one-day-old baby yet. But we do very clever computing, and clever computing can be leveraged very well. So automation, I heard we were talking about automation. So the kind of keywords I'd focus in on are hyper automation. That's key. And we've seen some very successful examples of that in the Irish market. Very small companies going to huge revenues, tines. That is a blueprint for success. Hyper automation, a team of 23 people, they got up to 300 million in revenue. And if you can do that with 23 people by really embracing hyper automation, then maybe you need to think about all your other processes. It has accelerated in the last 5 years. These tools that have come out are understanding and our sophistication in how to use them. So a 3-person startup, and we always, when we're working with our startup partners in the lab, if they've come into the ecosystem, we really accentuate that point that you can leverage technology to be 10x more effective. That can be something as simple as having your outreach, whether it's HubSpot, Monday, whatever you're using, that's set up properly and cleverly done. Pragmatic approach. Now, DORA, what does DORA impact on you when you're using these tools? Well, you have to understand the tools you're using. Even a basic high-level understanding is very important. So again, this comes back to awareness and training and avoiding that trap of being arrogant, going, well, it's this. You know, every day is a learning day. So the part you understand is, well, here's a tool. So you're a small business. You're using AI. You can go, I have 10 critical vendors, right? So one of them is probably going to be Office 365, Gmail, Zoho. It depends on what you're using. So you write up a little paragraph where you go, we use it for this. We understand they do the following, and we're okay with that. And you reference their material. You've put that to bed. And you review it at the end of the year and you go, that's a critical piece of infrastructure within our organization. So there's a very old saying, which is, you can't outsource responsibility, right? That's one. Two, I saw it in Dan's presentation, 74% of all people tend to be the security risk or the vector for security as an issue. I actually nearly think it's higher, but that's the number he has, in my experience, higher. There's a very old saying on that, there's no patch for human stupidity. So, mine included. So the only way you get around that is education and awareness. So we're going back to these common themes. Now DORA, the CBI are still finding their feet. We're talking about fines coming in. I was talking with someone about GDPR, it took a long time to get going. That's because they wanted to find the right test cases to actually, because you can undermine the legislation. As an enforcer, you can undermine it. So again, the EU doesn't want to undermine it. They're trying to build in. And guess who we can blame for this hyper-focus with DORA, with Digital Services Act, with NIST, with the AI Act? Primarily, unfortunately, the big bear has caused this, Russia. And the reason these have come out of business is because government is easy to regulate. They'll mow the ground, but ultimately it's a very simple hierarchical system. We, by and large, very luckily live in a democracy. So regulation is the only way. It's the social contract and the government contract we sit with. So what they're actually trying to do is prepare businesses for what they foresee as a tax coming over the next couple of years. State actors targeting small businesses. State actors targeting economies. We've already seen them start to target the message. The elections, fake news on like Facebook, TikTok, all that kind of jazz. So the next step is to start targeting the smaller businesses. Do you want to know why? We heard about the Chinese. Oh, well, we're targeting businesses. Their whole remit, that whole organization, APT 31, they're a division within the Chinese army. Their whole remit is to compromise Western companies, get their secrets, give it to Chinese, spin up. They're pretty open about it. They're blatant. So this is government trying to work with business to help. And if you apply it pragmatically and you approach it pragmatically, a 3-person team can't afford to have a dedicated instant response team, a dedicated forensic specialist, but you can engage fractional services. You can engage platforms that make you more effective, that when you need to use them, you can go to training that will let you know what your responsibilities are. Then you go to the scale-ups, let's say 30 people. Again, you might have a CSO or you might have a fractional one. I'm sure, Michael, you run into people who like to leverage platforms and services. And comms channel can't be underestimated. So what you and the guys are doing as well, that having that out-of-band communication. There was a published piece on the Microsoft hack. Look at Microsoft. How much they spent per year on security? Hundreds of millions. And how did they know that they were discovered? They were reading their emails as they were talking to each other. So what I would say is having a look and looking at the very basic things. Comms in now, is that secure? Do I have an instant response plan that's proportionate? Like your insurance plan, you're not going to pay the same insurance Microsoft pays if you're a 3-person or a 30-person organization. So then as you begin to scale, your response, your ability to defend at scale begins to scale out. In Hibernia, we certainly offer a lot of those services via fractional CISO, CSO, and we like to work with people as they evolve. So proportionality is key, awareness, and then just getting it done at the end of the day.
That's brilliant, Martin. So that leads on to things again, like you talked about there about reading the emails and Unit 61398, part of the People's Liberation Army. We know all this stuff goes on and what's going on. Is that not focus in for you, Joe, in the importance of the service you can deliver? I don't feel a lot of people are aware of what can be done with what you guys provide, because people just think, oh, my mobile phone, sure, that's going to be okay. Oh, my emails, they'll be okay. When it comes to DORA, and we're going beyond confidentiality, beyond the integrity and availability of the communications message, but the authenticity of it, are you guys getting ready for that sort of influx of the financial sector realizing, well, actually, there is a way to do this. There is a way to actually build all of that in around the messaging communications.
I mean, absolutely. I think every bank should be using salt. But you know, what we can do is actually address a number of the things that are coming up in DORA, right? So it's you know, we allow you to have this safe haven, we allow you to have this island, but one of the key things that we offer is federated secure comms between the different islands. So in terms of sharing threat intelligence, being able to speak to the central bank in a over a secure channel that is, you know, predefined and dedicated and highly resilient, and, you know, as invisible as you can make it to the aggressor. That's really important.
And obviously, in an incident like that, Joe, I presume you'd have maybe the loss adjusters on from the insurance company, maybe you have the key suppliers on, so all the key stakeholders are able to communicate, but they have comfort.
And you know who most of them are,
Yeah.
but maybe it's a specialized attack, and you need to bring in some external expertise. And so, you know, one of the key things that we do is try to make it really easy to bring people in for dedicated amounts of time, and then take them off the system without actually having the act of taking them off the system where they bring a load of sensitive internal information with them. So, you know, we are compliant from an SEC perspective in terms of being able to turn on and track all of the communications across the systems, but we also have the ability to, you know, remove the sensitive information from the endpoints, so that the endpoint itself, if you are, you know, subject to a Pegasus attack or a Predator attack or something like this, that's highly sophisticated, nation state backed, they are exfiltration acts. They want to get onto your device and pull out all of the nice things that's on there, all of your SMSs, all of your emails, all, you know, locations, who your contacts are, etc. So from our perspective, you know, we do everything we can to be as secure as possible, but we assume that at some point we will be breached, and therefore the big thing for us is retention. Make sure that you do not hold on to that information any longer than you need to. You're not giving them years and years of conversations between important people. If you're using our system as a real-time communication system where important people are talking about important stuff, where those matters today, and, you know, it's probably not going to be terribly relevant in a month's time, then we make sure it comes off that device, you know, after 3 or 4 weeks, so that if the worst was to happen, they're only going to get the really fresh stuff and not the next.
I get you. And then, Michael, like on your side, look, you've got your finger on the pulse of all the different, like, so Michael sits as a distributor. He would deal with the channel and all the different kind of solution providers from around the world, and he won't mind me embarrassing him, telling him that he has this great talent for finding what's new, what's good, and what's great to bring into the industry. And he introduces new players into the industry all the time. That's why we wanted Michael and Renee to be part of this DORA Centre of Excellence piece to build up, because are you seeing, Michael, specific DORA solutions, or are you seeing a more educated customer that's dealing with your guys? What impact is all this having?
So if you don't mind, maybe I'll just bounce back in terms of a couple of things there that I think are interesting to hear, because obviously with the conversation we've talked about people and the threats, and Dan talked about the threats of people and the challenges around managing people, and this has been discussed here, and Paul talked about the challenges in terms of the response, etc. There are some things out there that we've seen, given that we've been around, as I say, for far too long, but like the Harry Moore ad, but anyway, but just nobody remembers that, if that's even worse.
More years than I care to remember.
But anyway, no, but some of the things we've seen out there that are interesting, we're talking about nation state, we're talking about all these attacks and the vectors, if you like, in terms of how you're going to be damaged as an organization. But accidental, silly things like sending out an email accidentally Hands up anybody here who hasn't done that. Right. Yeah. You're special.
Don't believe you.
There's always one.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that's still something that we see all of the time. So I would suggest that there's some basic stuff that still needs to be done within organizations. There are technologies out there that'll massively assist you in terms of doing stuff and addressing just that challenge. So we're talking about data leakage, we're talking about the bad guys coming in, taking data out. Oftentimes it's accidental. And this comes back to Dan's and to Paul's, even in terms of how you're exercising and how you have plans in place, et cetera, but even mapping in some fairly straightforward technologies out there will massively help you. But to your question, Paul, in terms of the evolution of newer technologies, we're seeing a lot of technologies out there which are, they're not necessarily specifically about DORA, they're about compliance. They're about doing the right thing and doing the thing properly. And I would actually slightly take an issue in terms of, is DORA there because the stuff coming down the line, or is DORA there because we actually haven't done the right things at this stage already, and it's making us do the right things? And I think there's an element of that out there as well, because coming back to that point of the email there with the attachment pinging out, and you're going, we're seeing security awareness training. We're seeing that as a growing area. That should be out there. That should be done. So I think there's some basic stuff that's to be out there. But definitely there's technologies, there's partnerships, there's relationships. There are people out there who can cooperate with organizations, assist you in delivering the things that you can't actually scale. And to come back to the point I made initially, the DORA problem is easy to solve. All you need are all the finite, infinite resources. They're not infinite, they're finite. So to assist you with those, there are technologies, and those technologies are mapped around services. We're seeing the growth of the managed security services provider massively out there in terms of delivering those capabilities. They're delivering them on a local or a global scale, but they can assist you, whether you're the 3-man organization, 30-man, 3,000 person organization. Oh, I can't say man anymore, I have to say person, people, whatever. But anyway, apologies, mold. But they're definitely the changes we've seen.
Okay. And look, guys, that half an hour went really, really quickly, so I want to finish up, unless somebody's got some urgent or a pressing question, but I do want to let you know that we should be talking to these guys around the coffees, around the DORA Expo Zone, over lunch, everything else like that, because we want you to mingle and to talk as well. But has anybody got a question that they want to share with you're standing between everybody and their lunch. Do you have a question? Well, what I'll do, guys, is I'll just ask the guys to finish off with one salient point each of advice that they want to offer the room in relation to the subject matter that we're talking about today. And if you'd one imparting thought for people to take away, what would it be? Maybe start with yourself, Joe.
I suppose resiliency is the word that jumps out for me in DORA, and it's really, what do you do when everything else is not available? When everything falls over.
Yeah.
Prepare for that.
Perfect. Michael, back to yourself.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's very clear to me in the structure of DORA is it's throughout the whole organisation. So it's not just IT related, it's not just whatever, it's everybody. So the organisation needs to adopt this, and it is a responsibility at a high level, and it's release some funds to get things done.
Martin, I'll give you the final word.
I'd say continue to be curious. So you've attended this to learn about DORA. Come and talk to us if you want help with any challenges you're going to face. As I mentioned, we work with everything from startup, scale up to enterprise, or indeed any of the other panels here. But if you're curious and you want to get awareness and address it rather than stick your head in the sand, come and have a chat.
Fantastic. And guys, thank you so much for your input today. It was really, really valuable.